Welcome to Experiments in Leadership. I am Sonu Bhasin. Experiments in Leadership is a space where industry leaders share their thoughts and stories about various facets of leadership. Before I introduce my guest today, I do want to urge all of you to subscribe to my channel. It has great content and it is free to you. You can't get a better deal. So back to today's guest. Now, she is a power woman in the truest sense of the words. Manisha Girotra is the CEO of Moelis India, which is a global independent investment bank. Now, when you say investment bank, the images that come to mind immediately are of alpha men in black suits with shiny shoes and upturned noses. Manisha has had and is having a stellar career in investment banking, but she does stand out among all these alpha men. Always an elegant woman. She may not be in black suits, but she packs quite a power punch in whatever she does. And I can't wait to talk to her about her thoughts and experiences in leadership. So welcome, Manisha, and good to see you again. Always a pleasure to chat with you.
Thank you, Sonu. Thank you for a very kind introduction. And I've worn a black sari so I can match some of those alpha males.
That's you're doing your bit to stay in that black zone. So, I mean, you're wearing black. You've always been surrounded by black suits and shiny shoes. You've been an investment banker all your life. But these black men in black suits and shiny shoes, you have been their boss, their leader. Now, how have these men dealt with your leadership and your leadership style?
I think, Sonu, it's had its fair share of challenges, especially in the early years, because as you said, I was a woman. I am a woman, and then I was young. I was very young when I became head, especially of head of North India for Barclays. I think I was 27 years old or 28, if I can remember correctly. So I think it was, and a lot of people were much older with much more experience, 20, 25 years experience. So it came with its own fair share of challenges, I think. And it took a while. It was a long journey and an arduous journey in convincing people to come onto my side and to believe that I also know what I'm doing and I can be a good leader. But I don't want to at all at any stage say it was simple. It was difficult, and you really had to brace up for the ride.
Yeah. And during your years, you must have had many experiences, both good and bad. And since this conversation is about experiments that worked and that did not work, do you want to start with something that did not work? Because I'm sure it must have been early in your career, because as you grew, you must have refined your leadership style.
Yeah, I think as I grew, I got hit so many times that I learned, right? But yeah, I think, now that you say it, it takes me back to when I started. I'm a child of immigrant parents, so work translates to hard work in our generation, right? I mean, our parents were all about you must continuously be doing something, right? That's how you achieve your goals. Having been brought up with that kind of system, I brought that into my work too when I started to head North India, which I just mentioned to you for Barclays. Yeah. And I thought everyone should be constantly working, and if not working, thinking about work or commuting to work, or there should be the reason that should be just work. And even weekends, I thought we should be working because that's clients at that point. Corporates used to work 6 days a week. Banks had already converted to 5-day weeks, especially global banks, but corporates used to work 6 days a week. And I used to, insist that everyone come in on Saturdays, that we should go and meet clients on Saturdays, because my rationale was that, look, clients have more time to listen to our thoughts and what we are suggesting to them on a Saturday. They're more relaxed. So, we should keep with their timelines. And, I tried to do this for about 6-12 months, Sonu, and I realized that it wasn't really improving the productivity of my team at all. I could sense resentment. Body language tells you a lot. And I wasn't really achieving what I wanted to in terms of just establishing Barclays the way I had hoped we could do in the initial years. We just set up a shop in India.
Yeah.
So then I sat back and I thought about my father's leadership style, which is a lot about heart and brain. He's as much about heart and brain. And I thought, look, why? And that was something that I'd admired all my life. And I was like, why am I doing my job so differently in trying to establish to everyone that while I'm a woman, I can still be very serious, work 24/7, and also to show to clients that by working 24/7, I'm more sincere than some of the other bankers. And I felt this was not the right way, so I pivoted to a more democratic style of leadership. Basically, laid out the vision and mission, so to say, of the firm, but then said, look, you all are grown-ups, you're all adults, and you now align your objectives to this vision and mission. So started having more of weekly meetings, fortnightly meetings, in which we sort of sat together, huddled together, recalibrated, decided who's looking at which clients, etc., but didn't sort of do the micromanaging that I had got used to in the 6-12 months in the past 6-12 months. And so it really absolutely changed the way the same people work, because I think what it did was that it built a sense of ownership in them, because I wasn't there monitoring now what time they're swiping their card to come in and leave, and whether we're going on Saturdays to meet clients. I was like, look, this is the end goals. The firm wants us to make this much money. The firm wants us to be established with these set of clients, and now you go and figure it out. And everyone is an adult, and that's how they want to feel empowered, right? So I think democratizing my sense of leadership resulted in a much better outcome and a much happier outcome, right? In which everyone was happy. And honestly, so many people came in on Sundays to work also, right?
Because they were not forced to.
They were not forced to, and they had they were enjoying what they were doing, as opposed to coming in because I called a meeting at Saturday at 9:30 a.m. when everyone's grumpy. They weren't coming to do meetings with me or anyone else. They were coming in because their client needed, or as you said, they wanted to do it. So I learned very early in my life that leadership is all about creating a sense of ownership amongst everyone of their business, and that's when you bring out the best results. No way am I saying that you totally detach and let everything run amok. That's not possible. You have to come in as teams, because at the end of the day, investment banking is a team sport. But at the same time, empowering everyone right to the junior most person results in wonders, I believe.
Yeah, so that's very useful. And, I just do want to continue for just a little while on this empowering your team before we go to an experiment that did work for you. In my experience, I find that while everybody talks about empowerment, when it actually comes to empowering, people kind of get scared, because empowering somebody actually also means disempowering yourself. I mean, giving up a bit of your power to somebody else. And a lot of leaders, I guess, start feeling threatened by their team members who get empowered. So what are your thoughts on this empowering? I mean, one, yes, we know that we should, but how can people get over their fear of strengthening their teams? And I think the fear in everyone is that we'll be overshadowed by our own team members. So how do you handle this? What can you talk about this?
You absolutely right. I think it just comes from the insecurity that, look, then I will become redundant, right?
Yeah.
If someone who's junior to me, younger to me, less experienced than me can do my job better, then what is my role? Over time, I will basically become redundant. And I think that's where that fear comes from. And I think that's a very short-term way of looking at your own career too, because I think what you need to think about is that as you empower people, how do you reinvent yourself to do something more, right? Because you must think about your movement. If let's say within the same organization, you want to move up the chain, you must make sure, and you must be able to demonstrate to your bosses that, look, you actually, the ship can run without you very, very comfortably, right? Otherwise, your boss isn't going to allow you to then basically try and move on to a different role or a bigger role or whatever it may be. Yeah. Second, you may be wanting to do something else outside of the firm, in which case you should leave a good legacy behind. So, it's easier said than done, because a lot of people don't see the problem, Sonu, in India, is that the opportunities are few and far between, right? Whether it's woman or man, I think the market wasn't deep enough. It's changed a lot now, but till 10 years ago, the market wasn't deep enough, and insecurities were very deeply embedded, because, you couldn't, if you lost that job, it wasn't as if there were 5 jobs waiting for you. Absolutely. I think that's changing, and that's why you're seeing a lot of the leadership style changing, especially in corporate India. I would say startups, etc., are still probably a little different, where it's very founder-led and founder-dominated. But I think in corporates, you're seeing that also Indian talent now, Sonu, is getting recognized globally. Earlier, it was very difficult if I started my career in India to get a job in like Dubai or London or New York. My skills were not seen as transferable. that's changed a lot, right? So
Yeah.
I can go from here to my London office or my New York office. So there is ample growth. So I think as that's happening, you're seeing leaders empowering people more. The market's getting deeper, both in India, globally, Indians are getting acknowledged. And so I'm seeing a little bit more, but it's a tough one. So while I give you my response, I also concede that it's very tough because it comes from very deep-rooted insecurities on what happens to me. And I think the only way this works is if you have to continuously reinvent yourself, challenge yourself to, and not say, I'm going to stay status quo in this job. And because no job is permanent for anyone, any corporate, you're redundant. We're all people who come and go. Organizations last longer. So to make yourself invincible, in fact, I think is setting yourself up for failure, because most organizations after 5 to 10 years want change too.
Yeah. And also, when you talk about this deep feeling of insecurity, you and I we've grown up in an era where we did see scarcity, where we had to stand in lines to get
Yes.
2 bottles of milk, which today's generation, I don't think can believe. And therefore, would I be correct in my hypothesis that people of our generation are more insecure and therefore less empowering than, say, the millennials and the Gen Z? Because these guys and gals have grown up, where they haven't seen scarcity, where things are in abundance. India is still a poor country, but, things are not scarce any longer. So that job security, कि अभी ये नहीं है तो और कुछ नहीं मिलेगा, that kind of a mindset. Do you see that, since you would be dealing with a lot of youngsters, both on the client side and also in your teams?
I do see definitely that our generation tended to be very possessive about their jobs.
Yeah.
It's stemming exactly from the insecurity and the scarcity of opportunity. I see that changing, but a lot of it, I also see is basically where you have leaders who empower the younger generation. You can see them being more confident, right? They learn young, and that's the way of life they learn. So it's also a big function of who the leader of those organizations is, because you can see the same kind of very competitive, insecure behavior in the younger people, if that's what they're imbibing from the top, right? So right. By nature, you're right. By nature, they're far more confident, far more secure. Half of them, in fact, are happy to go and just do a gig job on their own. They're not stuck to large organizations or like or corner offices, which is what you and I aspired for. I mean, I don't think it excites them. I mean, at all. So I think by nature they come far more confident, but a lot of it depends on the, as you know, about the organizational behavior, right? What that organization is building in, because you're young and you're impressionable and you tend to think this is a way of life, and what you see is a very competitive, insecure boss on the top, right?
Yeah. Okay, so then let's come to an experiment that did work for you.
So an experiment that did work, I think, was in the lockdown. So as you know, we all got locked down very quickly, very suddenly. And, our business is a lot about meeting each other, because we're not selling a product. We're investment bankers, we're selling ideas, right, to corporate. So we need to meet as a team and, ideate. And sometimes the best ideas, just like you said, come from the young people, because they're so much more in sync with the new age world, the technologies, the disruption that's happening. You and I doesn't come to us naturally. To them, all of this comes naturally. So, it's important to meet. And so I think what I did through the lockdown is that I kept up a weekly session of us talking as a group, not on deals or anything, but just like having fun. So it could be us talking to the families, it could be us playing a game, playing a board game, doing all sorts of things. I used to rack my brain. My daughter used to say, "Oh, we can go spending time on what you're going to do on Monday morning with it." I literally has to do that. But I kept that whole bonhomie and spirit of togetherness going through the whole. And don't forget, Sonu, everyone went off to their homes. People were stressed out because families were not well, So sometimes it was, I'm sure people found it a task also coming out of those Monday morning meetings where I was playing games. And I had my own personal stresses, like we all did. But I made sure that we kept that going, because I think the way it helped is, it kept the feeling of togetherness together. We didn't alienate ourselves from each other. A lot of the team was young and new at that point. We suddenly got locked down. We got some... like 30% of our team was new analysts and associates who had joined, and they never met us, right? So, thanks to Zoom and Microsoft Teams, you pretty much can feel like you're together. And I think what that helped with, it helped just in that time period. But I think what it really helped me with was when the offices reopened and we became hybrid structures, a lot of the offices globally for us also, for example, teams wouldn't come back in. While our teams came back in pretty much in the first 2 months, we were working 100%. And this is people who had moved away to Calcutta, Bangalore, smaller towns to be with their parents, given up their apartments in Bombay and Delhi. They came back because I think they felt the need to be so much with each other, and they just enjoyed being with each other, and it helped me enormously. And today we work on 100% capacity. We have like Fridays, which is work from home, and still you see half the team that comes in because it's just like become a nice extended family. So I think that helped the feeling of togetherness that I managed to keep going through that whole very challenging 1.5 years. And also it helped us get to know who's suffering in which way and what we can help with, etc. Right? Because when you're on these calls, people are far more relaxed and tell you. Yeah. So I think that worked for me a lot. And it was, again, it goes back to the same thing that, leadership today it's the same, what you said, millennials want to work in organizations which can demonstrate good culture, right? They are not, unlike you and me, they're not switching for the next dollar, right? Or if they, or our generation maybe didn't move at all because, as you said, we were so insecure about the fact that there is another job.
We were just so thankful that we had a job.
Correct.
Now the organizations are thankful that people are working for them.
Correct. I remember my father told me when I joined my first job, every time your boss passes by, you should stand up and say good morning. And I was like, this is an investment bank. He got a heart attack if I do that. But that's how he thought about, oh my God, job, now you need to hold on to it. But this generation doesn't. They want to work for an organization which is seen as empathetic, which has good culture, which has positive vibes. And I think that is the most important thing for them, because otherwise they're happy to switch and be without a job, right? Yeah. So I think we were able to provide that, and we were a forward-looking organization. We are changing with the times. We're empathetic to you. And look, if tomorrow you want to come into work, fine. If you don't want to come in, we're still, we'll still keep going. And I think the fact that we were able to move up culturally and empathetically helped us get our team back. And we've had very, very little attrition, knock on wood, also since we've joined back. And I think, of course, markets are slower, but I think it also comes from the fact that just people feel good about being with each other. And the younger team, that's the single most thing that drives them, as you know, Sonu, the culture of the organization.
Yeah, no, what you said is so true. But before I let you go, just a couple of, items of gyan that you can share with some of the young ones. And I really do want to keep it gender neutral. So I'm not going to say, for all the women out there, what do you suggest? But for all budding leaders, given the new environment, if they do want to be respected leaders, there's a according to me, there's a difference between feared, loved, but I think ultimately every leader wants to be respected. How can they earn the respect of their peers and their team members? Any words?
Sure. I think the first, Sonu, I think is, as leaders, we become very complacent. We don't invest in ourselves. We don't learn. We don't read enough. And in a world that's changing so fast, and as I said before, in a world where the youngest know the most, oddly enough, experience may be important, but actually the way they know about what's happening in the new age businesses, we don't. You must reinvent yourself, and you must keep on reading, because that's how respect comes. And that's generation, gender agnostic. You respect someone who you think knows more than you, etc. And not just like saying, I have 30 years of work experience and you should listen to me. Nobody cares anymore, right? So I think just keep on investing in yourself. And I think we stopped doing that. We sort of sit in our corner offices, isolated from everyone, and don't invest in ourselves. So just read up, there's enough available on social media, etc., etc. And B, I personally think that, in today's day and age, gone are the days when you sit in your corner office locked up and don't talk to people. I think today's good leaders, frankly, should be in flat organizations, not even have cabins, and and by no means, Sonu, do I mean that you should completely get rid of the hierarchy, etc. I mean, there has to be an org structure, but I think it's really important that you listen to the junior most people in your team. You be as much of a listener as a talker. As leaders, we all go to training programs where you must train your people this way, you must talk to your people, but listen. Most important with this generation is to listen, because they have very strong minds, strong opinions. And if they're seen as being made inclusive in your success, and they are made to have a sense of ownership in your success, they will stick on and make you succeed. Else they'll be gone. They'll be gone the next morning, you'll have an empty office.
Yeah. No, so again, as always, pleasure speaking with you. This is a topic where we can go on forever. And for all the women who are listening, maybe we'll do a separate one where we will focus only on gender and women leaders. But that's for another time. So thank you, Manisha, and thank you for your time. Enjoyed speaking with you. And viewers, we will continue to have more conversations here. So keep watching this space. Till then, toodle-doo.